everyone, I just wanted to show off my latest experiment in skeleton corsetry. This is my very first skeleton corset, and really it's more of a prototype than anything else because it's only made of twill tape and I didn't use any coutil in it. However, you can see that it still kind of works pretty well in shaping, so I wanted to show it off and show you guys how I made it. Now, you don't have to make this style exactly. You can take any other style of skeleton corsetry. You can add more horizontal strips, you can add a diamond waist, anything that you want. But I'm going to show you just the basic way of how I made this so that you can experiment and kind of make your own skeleton corsets if you want to try it out. Now, when I originally posted this corset to my Facebook page, it kind of got a mixed reaction, and I expected that actually, because this is really an experiment in corset minimalism. I really wanted to, well, first of all, have something cool to wear. It breathes extremely well. Right now it's about 30 degrees Celsius outside, and I'm quite comfortable. But secondly, I wanted to kind of push my knowledge on corset architecture and, you know, kind of really figure out what are the most important lines in a corset that you need the most support. Even if you see pictures of myself without me wearing this corset on and you can see the fat squishing out everywhere, you can almost imagine that as a map of grids, you know, and you know, any place where there's more squish coming out, you know that you need more support there. I usually just wear this with liners anyway, and skeleton corsets in the past were always worn with a chemise underneath, as per the usual in the Victorian era. So anyways, I'm going to show this from all angles, and then I'm going to delve into the tutorial on how I made it, and then I'm going to actually show you all the things that I've noticed about the asymmetry of my body and how making a skeleton corset can actually help you draft better corsets in the future. Side. I used an old 6-panel pattern that I drafted from my measurements last year. Start by tracing and cutting out your pattern pieces from a soft tear-away stabilizer. Here, I keep the pattern pieces pretty close to on grain, but I don't put an emphasis on making it to the exact millimeter like I do with most fabrics. The stabilizer doesn't really stretch in any direction, rather it tears, so having it warp isn't really a concern, especially as it won't be lasting that long. Then, stitch the panels of stabilizer together. I used a fairly large stitch on my machine because I didn't want the seam to be too perforated. That could cause it to tear before I'm ready. I also finger pressed the seams open so the seams are clearly visible. You can use an iron on just a warm or cool setting for the stabilizer as long as it's not the wash away kind, as that might disintegrate with steam. Here you can already start to see the shape that it will make when it's done. Then I took strips of twill tape and started laying them over the stabilizer. I decided to center them over the seams and put 2 bones per strip. The order in which I put the strips was 1 layer vertically over all the seams and also the front and back edges. Then I laid down the horizontal strips at the waist and the top and bottom edges. After this, I put a 2nd layer of vertical strips down over the first to create the boning channels. Now comes the fun part. Once you have your frame of your skeleton corset, you can start tearing away your stabilizer. You may need tweezers to get the small pieces out. If you're using a wash-away stabilizer, then theoretically you could immerse it in water. However, I wouldn't recommend it if you haven't pre-washed your twill, as it might cause shrinking. After inserting your steel bones, it's time to close up the channels and finish the binding. What I'm doing here is cutting off the excess length of the boning channel strips. They were basted to the horizontal strip, which will become the binding. And I had basted that right in the middle of the binding strip. I just trimmed the boning channels down to just a couple of millimeters away from that seam in the middle of the binding strip. Then I folded over the binding strip double thickness to cover the raw edge of the boning channels. Remember, when you're finishing this binding strip, to finish the edges like you would with any other binding. You need to fold down the raw edge at the front and back so it looks clean and it won't fray. After this, clip any loose threads, add grommets, and it's time to lace it up. And now I'm going to show you a few pictures of myself wearing this corset without any liner underneath, and I'm going to show you how I can pinpoint exactly my problem areas so that I can draft better corsets in the future. So if you are uncomfortable with any sort of visuals of a fat squidge or anything, then I recommend you click away now. Just, you know, viewer discretion is advised. For those of you who are really interested in this, then let's get started. In the past, I've often had problems with boning placement around my hips, numbness on my left hip from squeezing, and also corsets twisting on me. By using the skeleton corset, I was able to pinpoint my exact problem areas. In the front view, I'm not sure if you can see it in the photo, but it was very clear to me when viewing myself in person. My hips are indeed asymmetric. My left iliac crest protrudes more than my right one, and also even one side of my body cinches more readily than the other side, which can be measured in hip spring on each side compared to rib spring. In the profile view, the bone of the corset is right in front of my iliac crest and is pushing back on it slightly. This wouldn't normally happen in a regular corset because the fabric would prevent my hip from freely jutting out behind it. Instead, the bone would rest directly on my hip bone and cause discomfort. In the past, I didn't understand why my hip consistently hurt, and to attempt to solve that, I tried drafting the hip area of my corsets larger and larger. However, now I'm going to completely change my drafting technique, including tapering my panel seams and bones closer to the front and away from my problem area. In the 3/4 view, you can fully see the waffle iron effect. The way that female fat pads are genetically distributed, women, and actually some men, often have a little pocket of fat directly beneath their navel, and it's no different for me. This is likely why so many skeleton corsets in the past had a diamond-shaped belt or waist tape to hold that flesh in. The diamond could be shallow and stop just around the natural waist, or it could continue up to the sternum. And I would like to experiment with this in the future, using different materials like couture, adding more bands of structure in various places, and also adding something like power mesh underneath the open areas so that there's less kind of squidge happening. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial and case study, despite the fact that, yeah, it's not exactly the prettiest corset. But if you did enjoy it, if you found it informative, and you learned a little bit more about the basic architecture of corsetry, then consider clicking the like button to help support the channel. If you have any comments or questions about this, if you like it, if you don't like it, tell me why. Leave a comment down below, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.